This video was made possible by Shopify. Set up your online business with a 90-day free trial by going to shopify.com/HAI. Here's a question for you. Has anyone really been far even as decided to use even go want to do look more like? Damn, you don't know? Well then here's another one. Who owns the rain? I think I heard you say nobody, but that's wrong and you should feel bad, but I sort of get where you're coming from. I mean, after all, rain seems like it would be one of those things that just isn't owned, like clouds or rainbows or tigers, but it turns out that actually somebody does own the rain. Or more accurately, lots of people own the rain. Or more accurately, lots of different people and also sometimes companies and at other times governments and actually at other times nobody owns the rain. Now, my first step in trying to figure out who owns the rain was to watch the movie Rain Man, but it turned out that didn't help. So my next step was to do some research, country by country, and it turned out that, much like rules about what color to make school buses or whether humans deserve rights, who owns the rain depends a lot on where you are. Now, in most countries, rainwater is owned by whoever's property it falls on. And in fact, many countries like the UK, France, and Australia actually offer some sort of tax credit for homeowners who take it upon themselves to collect rainwater and put it to a useful purpose, which makes a lot of sense. After all, reusing rainwater is environmentally friendly, and according to scientists, the world may soon have a water shortage. But what do scientists know? Aside from how magnets work, please tell me. But not everywhere likes to do things in a way that makes sense. Others like to do things in a way that makes dollars, and nowhere is that more true than with Britain's chalk-eating child, the US of A. The US doesn't just have one policy on who owns rains, they have several. That's because the United States is made up of all these things called states, and while they're united on some things, like being confused by Florida, they're divided on a lot of other things, including who owns rain, and so rain ownership depends on the state, but things start to get especially interesting as you start moving west into states that were built on top of deserts or are prone to water shortages, because that sounds like a great idea. Colorado, in particular, has had a rather fraught history with who owns their rain. In fact, until 2007, collecting rainwater was completely illegal for homeowners, even if that rain was falling on their property. The reason comes down to Colorado's complex water rights, which is called prior appropriation and is intended to deal mainly with streams and rivers, but which ended up having a big effect on rain ownership. It's complicated, but basically, different people get priority over certain amounts of water in given waterways depending on seniority. To illustrate, let's say there are 3 people, and let's name them Sub, Scry, and Buh, and let's say they each have some claim of a certain amount of water from this river. Let's say 20 years ago, Sub laid claim to 200 gallons, 10 years ago, Scry laid a claim to 100 gallons, and 5 years ago, Buh also laid claim to 100 gallons. But now let's say that because this is a very, very small and bad river, it's only pumping out 350 gallons this year. Because Sub claimed the water earliest, he has senior water rights, and he is allowed to get his 200 gallons before anyone else can get anything. Then the next senior member, Scry, can get his 100 gallons, and finally, Buh can come in and try to get his 100 gallons, but it looks like he'll only end up with 50. The point is, in Colorado, basically every waterway has a whole queue of people who have rights to some of that water and who might not get those rights fulfilled if there isn't enough. That's why rain collection was illegal. It was the state's position that by collecting rainwater, homeowners were stopping rain from becoming groundwater that would flow into rivers that people had rights to. In other words, homeowners were stealing rain from the people who had rights over the rivers that the rain would end up in. In short, the rain-collecting homeowners were no good wranglers. Get it? Like cattle wranglers, but with rain? The only problem was, that's not actually how rain works. A 2007 study showed that 97% of Colorado rainwater evaporates or goes to plants, not rivers. So, in a bizarre feat of politicians listening to science, the study prompted Colorado to change the law, giving rain rights to certain well owners and allowing homeowners to collect 2 barrels worth of rain at a time each. Now, a bunch of other non-Colorado states also have different laws about rain. The main distinction is between potable and non-potable water. Potable water is water you can use to drink, and non-potable water is water you can't drink. At least that's what the government says, but personally, I drink my water with the pulp just to show the feds that they don't own me. Now, many states, like Arkansas, only allow homeowners to collect rainwater for non-potable purposes, though some, like Ohio and Texas, allow both, and a few states, including Texas, Rhode Island, and Virginia, offer tax credits for rainwater harvesting equipment. Plus, actually, you know what, I could keep going, but at this point, I'm just tired of pretending reality is anything more than a simulation side project in Elon Musk's third house's garage. Now, if you have a side project, you probably dream of turning that into your main project, aka your job. Whatever your passion is, you could almost certainly turn that into a business that you could start with Shopify. Shopify has all the tools you need to set up an online business with no coding skills required. With it, you can find a name, set up branding, set up an online store, expand to other sales channels, set up marketing methods, and manage business finances. It's really your start-to-finish partner in setting up your business, which is the reason why it's trusted and used by over 1 million merchants worldwide, including me, who uses Shopify to power the half-as-interesting merch store. So turn what you're into a business with Shopify. By signing up at shopify.com/free-trial/HAI, you'll get a 90-day free trial and you'll be supporting HAI while you're at it.